Hello guys and welcome to this video. My name is Tio and I'm a Cambridge University alumnus. Today we'll talk about how to deal with stress at university, and specifically we'll use the teachings of the ancient Stoic philosophy to help us tackle that problem. This video is a collaboration with first-rate tutors. Thank you for watching this on my own channel, but do feel free to also check out their other resources because they've got amazing videos for high school and university students alike. I'm sure you'll like them, and check them out and give them a subscribe because they're totally worth it. Without further ado, let's get into this video. So we'll get to dealing with stress in a minute, but first let me tell you some more about Stoicism. So Stoic philosophy has been around for many years now, about 2 millennia in fact, and I see it above all as a way of living proposed by thinkers from ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Three such thinkers that come to mind are Epictetus, Seneca the Younger, and Marcus Aurelius. So while Stoicism is a really old philosophy, it seems to be an evergreen one, as we can observe a resurgence of its popularity in the modern day. In fact, some of these principles I have internalized myself, maybe from my parents or from my teachers, without actually realizing that this was all Stoicism, without conceptualizing it in this way. But recently I've realized that thinking about this stuff in the framework of the Stoic philosophy itself and reading some of these thinkers' works might help us be more aware of our state of mind and of our reactions to the input from the world around us. Now, Stoicism is relevant in the modern day as part of the productivity, hustle, and startup culture. As Tim Ferriss puts it, it's a fantastic operating system for thriving in high-stress environments. On the other hand, Stoicism also allows you to have more consistent well-being in all areas throughout your life. And in this video, we're talking specifically about student life, where you've got to be productive but also have a balanced and fulfilling life on top of that. So let's look at some examples of Stoic philosophy. Today we'll look specifically at some insights from Epictetus and Seneca and look for ways in which we could apply those teachings to our daily lives in order to deal with stress, especially in the university environment. So the first principle we'll look at is the most basic principle of Stoicism, which comes from Epictetus, and it's the following. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. We also call this the Dichotomy of Control, and the way we can use this in our daily life is to only focus on those things and try to influence those things which we can actually control, which we can actually change. In our day-to-day life as a student, there are many things that we can actually influence, but there are also other things that we cannot. And we need to accept this in order to put as little strain and stress on ourselves as possible. For example, what you can control is how much time you spend with the reading, how regularly you attend classes, how well you take your notes. But some examples of things that you cannot control are the impression you'll make on your professors or the grade that you will get. For example, a way in which I was applying this principle unconsciously during my years at the University of Cambridge was to always ask myself whether I did everything that stood in my own power, everything that I could, in order to improve the way I write essays and in order to read as much material as possible. By doing that, my focus was on what stood in my power to change and not on the unpredictable consequences of my actions. As long as I knew that I was giving my best, that I was studying just as much as I had before going to Cambridge, then this was enough to me to prove to myself that I was doing the right thing. This way, the grades that I got or the criticism from my supervisors were inconsequential to my own well-being as a student. I took all the criticism as a constructive kind of criticism. If you shift your focus like that, then there would be two benefits when it comes to dealing with stress at university. On the one hand, your motivation to study will become internal because you're not studying for the grades or for the good comments on your essays. You're studying because you want to know more about that, to find out more, and to enrich yourself. And when your motivation is internal, the workload no longer seems as if it's imposed on you by someone else, and it's a lot less stressful than it would be otherwise. On the other hand, it will allow you to treat all criticism or the occasional bad grade as simply a hint as to the area in which you need to improve. If you feel like you're giving your best in your own terms and not comparing yourself with any external factors, then the results will come. Of course, if you're getting a bad grade or some negative feedback, it's normal to get stressed about it, especially when you know that you had given your best. And this happened to me as well, but you should know that if you keep doing it, you're going to get better. There's no other way around it. That's the only thing that can happen. It's a causal relationship between repeating an action and improving the way you do it. So if you're having trouble with a subject that you're giving your best at, keep doing it, and in time, gradually, you'll get better at it. In my first year, when I was first translating from German to English, and English is my second language, I'm not a native speaker, I had a lot more trouble with transferring that information in correct and literary and pleasant sounding English than with understanding the German. I was very good at German, but see, I hadn't read that much literature in English before then, and during that year, I had to improve at that. I got some bad feedback at the beginning. The supervisors told me that I had to improve at it. So I started reading a lot more in English for that purpose, and I exercised translations during the winter and Easter breaks. My first grade in the first term was 62, and by the end I ended up getting 70 points in the exam, which is basically a first for that exam, and I was really content about it, and it showed me that perseverance leads to good results. So don't focus on the feedback that you cannot control. Only focus on your input and what you can actually influence, and this will lead you to great results with a lot less stress. The second insight we'll talk about comes from Seneca, and it goes like this: if you would not have a man flinch when the crisis comes, train him before it comes. And here, please replace man with person or anyone for that purpose, regardless of gender. What this means is that you need to be prepared to face the challenge. University is a challenge, and it's probably the first big challenge that a person faces in their life. It's a different environment with different people and a different kind of learning. There's a lot of different stuff you need to get used to apart from the actual academic workload. So in order to prepare for the challenges that you will face throughout the academic year, what I would suggest is making a list of all those potential challenges that you might face. So take your time and journal. Write down or type up everything that you might encounter during your year at university. It's basically like an extended to-do list, which ranges from meeting new people, living away from home and getting organized on your own, to meeting tight deadlines, reading a lot and sitting exams. And you can add to this list a lot of other challenges that you will face at university. It's all subjective in this respect. And then take some time to visualize how you might solve each and every one of those problems. And then write down or type up what your answers or solutions to those problems would be. For example, in order to meet new people and integrate in the university community, you might want to join some societies and meet people with similar interests as yours. In order to get your life organized on your own, you might want to create habits such as making your bed every morning, or learning a few recipes, a few simple ones to cook when in need. For meeting tight deadlines, you might want to have some kind of calendar or diary in which you'll write all the tasks that you've got to do and keep on top of them. In case you'll have to read a lot, you might want to learn how to speed read or how to skim, or watch these videos that I've made on these topics. And for successfully passing the exams, your solutions might be creating a good revision schedule and having some good revision techniques such as active recall and spaced repetition to help you remember all the information that you've accumulated throughout the year. Now that you've got all these methods down on paper, then it will be much easier for you to tackle those tasks because you'll be prepared for them. You'll know what awaits you, and if you have a solution to almost every problem, you'll be stress-free because you'll have a heightened awareness of everything it is that you need to do in order to cope with whatever is thrown at you at university. Our third and final insight comes again from Epictetus, and it goes like this: it is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. Or in other words, you might have seen this quote, which is wrongly attributed to Captain Jack Sparrow. The problem is not the problem is your attitude about the problem. Now let me know down in the comments whether this is actually from the Pirates of the Caribbean or not. I'm not entirely sure about that, but many people say it's actually falsely attributed to him. Let me know in the comments about that. And now let's pick apart what Epictetus wants to say here. So he says that stress is not a direct consequence of the events, and that in fact it is a consequence of what we think about the events, of what our mindset is when those events happen, and what our emotional response to those events is. And I'm saying emotional response because many times those quick judgments don't actually come from our reasoning about the events. They come from an unconscious perception of those events, which are closer to emotion than to our objective reasoning. And what we need to do in this case in order to avoid being stressed is to have the right mindset about the events that are going to happen. Now, the classic example is that of going to a crowded place, such as a party or a shopping center in our modern day. Now, if you go there with the expectation that people will be tranquil, that the atmosphere will be relaxing and quiet, and that no one will be around to disturb you, then you're definitely setting yourself up for stress and anger, which is completely unnecessary because that is obviously a place where people go to be together, and any social interaction between people necessitates some sort of compromise. And that's why you need to go in there with the mindset of going to a festival, in the words of Epictetus. And this is linked with the idea of acceptance. If you expect people to be around, if you expect company and loud voices, then you will go there already accepting everything that might come your way that might be unpleasant otherwise. Now, in our case as students, obviously the crowded place example works because at a university there are many students interacting with each other, but there are many other cases in which you can use this insight in your daily life. For example, before starting the academic year, you should not expect that you will do well in every single subject, and you should accept the fact that you will be criticized by your professors and that you will have to get better. Personally, I had to learn this the hard way because I used to be a perfectionist all the way. I was the stereotypical perfectionist when I started university, and this didn't work very well in terms of my stress management. But in time I realized that every negative feedback was an opportunity to get better, and so I accepted that during supervisions I might get feedback that I won't like, but I will have to accept, I will have to implement in my future work. And I strongly believe that that's the way forward as a student, creating correct expectations about what is ahead of you and accepting everything that comes onto you. Because when you get negative feedback, there are two ways you can think about it. You can judge it as a personal attack on your own person, on who you are, or alternatively, you can judge it as a constructive kind of feedback that is meant for you to improve. Now, you can already see which is the more correct way to judge this situation. By judging those situations correctly that you encountered during university, you'll allow yourself to be a lot less stressed about everything that happens there and about all the challenges that you'll have to face. Now, in order to face those challenges as a student, First Rate Tutors is a great resource, and I strongly suggest that you subscribe to their channel. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel in order to stay tuned to all the videos that I'll be posting about studying and productivity, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye bye.